Right, I think that's about right. Ladies and gentlemen, forgive me in advance. I have a cold coming on, so I'm going to say some words nasally. Anyway, this is One Black British Woman's Voice, and today I want to tell you why Killmonger is the sociopath you should love. So, I finally watched the film Black Panther, can you tell? Okay, let's just get the obvious out of the way. T'Challa the King was based on the peace-endorsing persona of the Honourable Nelson Mandela, and Killmonger was based on the persona of the tactical freedom fighter who was Malcolm X. I loved both characters. Indeed, I loved the entire film, although I could have thrown the overblown CGI into the bin. Awful train fighting scene. Anyway, the costumes, characters, dialogue, and smorgasbord of dark-skinned actors was sumptuous. And although it was essentially a Disney production, it lacked the twee, white picket fence feel that Disney traditionally imbues their films and cartoons with. Thank you for ruining Star Wars, Disney. But I'm not here to review the films per se. I am here to dissect the unintentional hero of the film, who was none other than the great revolutionary Killmonger. Killmonger. As I said, Killmonger was based on the character of Malcolm X, and in a wider sense, he was a subtle embodiment of the disenfranchised African Americans, or rather disenfranchised black people in general. During points of the film, the audience is encouraged to view Killmonger as a murderous thug, albeit with a noble cause which he executes iniquitously. But a deeper insight into his psychology should enable you to realize that far from being irrationally unstable, Killmonger was simply a heroic and gallant sociopath. Why was this a good thing? Well, let me explain. Most of the time, people use the words psychopath and sociopath as if they're seamlessly interchangeable. But although they share many common attributes, their roots have two very separate genesises. Yes, they're both antisocial disorders that match each other in terms of lack of empathy, aggression, and other negative traits, and so on and so forth. And both personas are impulsive and have a contempt for the rules. But here's where they diverge. A psychopath is born a psychopath, but a sociopath evolves into a sociopath. For example, a psychopath is born biologically that way, which means all the core attributes of a psychopath have been genetically encoded within his or her genome from the moment they departed their mother's womb. Pre-packed psychopath, if you like. As a result, to mask his defunct character, they arm themselves with charm, and whilst growing up, aggression and manipulation is natural to them, whereas empathy isn't. Which is why one of the tales of a psychopath is the predatory-like way they spy on human interplay, so as to note how to mimic emotions such as sympathy, which preps them to successfully mimic the appearance of sympathy, empathy, etc. towards their unsuspected, caring victims. However, none of these negative traits come naturally to a sociopath. These traits only grow when being brought up in a dangerous or violent household, or being subjected to a dangerous and violent environment in general. In a sociopath, traits such as aggression, lack of empathy, and manipulation have grown as tools with which to survive. For instance, think of the bully that only became a bully because they themselves were bullied. Another example would be if you were subjected to growing up in a house with, say, alcoholic parents. Unfortunately, as a child, you'll be susceptible to violence and neglect at moments of your life, at many moments of your life. And so, to survive, you'll become aggressive to protect yourself, manipulative to be granted food and shelter, and purposefully erase your ability to feel empathy or sympathy because your household becomes a den of every dog for itself, if you will. In a nutshell, sociopathy is trauma-induced, not biologically or genetically coded into yourself since you were a fetus, but purely external characteristics that you commandeered mainly as survival skills as a result of living in a war-torn home where your parents are nothing more than deranged substance abusers. And this is where Killmonger's character comes into it. Although Killmonger's background story has been changed radically from the comics in order to suit the film's narrative, his environmental circumstances still contributed to the same personality outcome. A human who was essentially born pure, a person who had kernels of empathy and could be trained not to be aggressive, but turned sociopathic due to circumstance. In the Black Panther, you're made aware that Killmonger as a child was idealistic and made thoroughly aware of Wakanda's existence through his father's storytelling. So when he looks up into the sky whilst playing basketball and sees the UFO flow past, he runs home because he knows from the conversations he's had with his father that this UFO is a product of the advanced land of Wakanda, the land civilization his father originally came from. What embitters him is discovering not only his father's murdered body laying on the floor of the home they share, but the connection he correctly asserts between his father's murder and the fleeing UFO he caught sight of earlier. What ensues is a mentality that pertains to the very definition of sociopathy, a child that turns to aggression, manipulation and self-centeredness, and a playing down of empathy in order to survive orphanhood, avenge his father, and grandiosely reach out to his people. So this is why you should love Killmonger. He's not a psychopath who was born that way. He's not your typical white serial killer or paedophile, but a child abandoned and traumatized that blossomed into a man of immense drive and determination. He's a hero born of circumstance with a virulent will to succeed and a dedication to solving the white dictatorship problem. Even T'Challa says to his father in anger you killed his father and abandoned him, and look what he became. Emphasis on the word became. Essentially, he became a revolutionary, and unlike a genetic psychopath, he channeled his sociopathy to the point where at the end, he sacrificed his life rather than subject himself to the bondage his ancestors had jumped off ships to escape. Anyway, this is my point of view. This is one Black British woman's voice. Leave your comments below, and I'm out.